At 9:17 on Monday morning, someone poured an entire cup of iced coffee over my desk. Not accidentally, not subtly. The plastic cup tipped slowly, deliberately, brown liquid spilling across the reports I had spent half the night preparing, soaking through 47 pages of financial projections before dripping onto the expensive carpet beneath my chair. The entire executive floor went silent. Then someone laughed. Oh no. I looked up. Vanessa Cole stood on the other side of my desk with one perfectly manicured hand pressed dramatically against her mouth. I'm so sorry, Kai. She wasn't. The smile hiding behind her fingers made that obvious. Beside her, two junior assistants exchanged amused looks. One of them whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Guess he'll be staying late again." I looked down at the destroyed documents, then at the clock, 9:18. The quarterly strategy meeting started at 9:30, 12 minutes. Vanessa folded her arms. Those were for Mr. Ashford, weren't they? I leaned back in my chair. They were. Her smile widened. That's unfortunate. Now there are three things everyone at Ashford Global knows about Damien Ashford. First, he is 31 years old and worth more money than most people can comprehend. Second, he built Ashford Global into one of the largest technology conglomerates in the country before his 30th birthday. And third, Damien Ashford absolutely despises incompetence. People have been fired for arriving unprepared to his meetings. Senior executives rehearse presentations for days before standing in front of him. Department heads straighten their backs when they hear his footsteps in the hallway. And according to company legend, Damien once stared at a vice president for 23 seconds without speaking until the man apologized for something Damien hadn't even mentioned yet. So yes, destroying the CEO's quarterly reports 12 minutes before his meeting should have been a disaster. Vanessa clearly thought so. She leaned closer. Maybe next time you'll be more careful. I stared at her. Then I smiled. Maybe. Her expression faltered. That wasn't the reaction she wanted. She wanted panic. She wanted me scrambling around the office trying to rescue coffee-soaked paper while everyone watched. Unfortunately for Vanessa, I had learned a long time ago that people become very uncomfortable when you refuse to perform the humiliation they've prepared for you. So I calmly picked up the ruined report, dropped it into the trash, opened the bottom drawer of my desk, and pulled out another perfectly bound copy. Vanessa's smile disappeared. I placed it neatly beside my laptop. Anything else? One of the assistants blinked. You made another one? 3, actually. I opened the drawer slightly wider. 2 additional copies sat inside. I smiled. I've worked here long enough to understand that accidents happen. My eyes returned to Vanessa. Frequently. The assistant beside her choked on a laugh. Vanessa's face hardened. You think you're clever. No. I checked the time again. 9:20. I think I'm prepared. Then the elevator doors opened. Everything changed. People who had been laughing 2 seconds earlier immediately straightened. Phones disappeared. Whispers died. Someone near the printer nearly dropped a stack of folders. Damien Ashford stepped onto the executive floor. Black suit, black tie, dark hair perfectly styled, expression unreadable, 6 feet 3 inches of pure corporate terror walking toward us with his chief operating officer beside him. I had seen grown alphas twice his age become nervous under that stare. Damien didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to threaten anyone. People simply moved, and they moved now. Vanessa stepped away from my desk. The other assistants scattered toward their stations. Damien walked closer. His gaze swept across the floor, then landed on me. For half a second, something changed in his expression, something so small nobody else would have noticed. But I did, because I knew that face better than anyone alive. I raised one eyebrow. Don't. His jaw tightened. His eyes dropped toward my desk, toward the coffee dripping from its edge, then toward Vanessa. Oh, hell. I picked up my phone beneath the desk and typed quickly. Don't. Damien's phone vibrated in his pocket. He didn't look at it. He continued staring at Vanessa. I typed again. Damien. His phone vibrated again. Nothing. Behave. A pause. His eyes finally returned to me. The corner of his mouth moved almost imperceptibly. Then my phone buzzed. She poured coffee on your desk. I bit the inside of my cheek. I noticed. 3 dots appeared. I can fire her before the meeting. I almost laughed. No. During the meeting. No. His eyes narrowed. Then another message arrived. You're very unreasonable for someone whose husband owns the building. I quickly locked my phone. Because nobody at Ashford Global knew that. Not Vanessa, not the board, not the assistants whispering about me every morning, not even most of Damien's senior executives. To them, I was Kai Seo, 25, Omega, executive assistant to the most feared alpha in corporate America, the man who scheduled Damien Ashford's meetings, organized his travel, prepared his reports, and somehow survived working directly beneath him. What none of them knew was that Damien Ashford had kissed me goodbye in our kitchen 45 minutes earlier, that the watch beneath my sleeve had been his anniversary present to me, that the apartment everyone assumed I rented on an assistant's salary was actually the penthouse we shared, and that hidden beneath the silver chain around my neck, because wearing it openly at work would raise far too many questions, was my wedding ring. Damien Ashford wasn't just my boss, he was my husband, and judging by the way he was still looking at Vanessa, my husband was approximately 30 seconds away from becoming my biggest workplace problem. I cleared my throat. Mr. Ashford. His attention shifted to me. Professional, cold, perfectly controlled, at least outwardly. The strategy meeting begins in 8 minutes. I know. Then perhaps we should go. His eyes flicked once more toward the coffee, then back to me. Do you have the reports? I lifted the clean copy. Of course. Something almost resembling pride appeared in his eyes. Good. He turned, then stopped. Without looking back, he said calmly, Ms. Cole. Vanessa froze. Yes, Mr. Ashford. Damien glanced over his shoulder. If Mr. SEO is late to my meeting because he's cleaning this mess. A beat of silence. You'll explain to the board why. Vanessa went pale. I closed my eyes. Technically, he had behaved. Barely. Damien continued toward the conference room. I picked up my laptop and followed him. As I passed Vanessa, she whispered, You think you're special because he defended you? I stopped, looked at her, and smiled. No. Then I leaned slightly closer. I think you should be more worried about why you need to destroy somebody else's work to make yours look better. Her face changed. That one landed. I continued walking. Behind me, nobody laughed. Good, because there was something else Vanessa didn't know, something none of them knew. I wasn't keeping my marriage secret because Damien was ashamed of me, and I certainly wasn't keeping it secret because I was afraid of what people would think. The decision had been mine. 2 years ago, the morning after our wedding, Damien had offered me everything, a private office, a senior position, my name beside his on every corporate invitation. I refused all of it. I'd spent too much of my life watching people look at Omegas and decide what we were capable of before we'd even opened our mouths. Pretty, soft, emotional, suitable for supporting someone important, never important ourselves. So when I decided to join Ashford Global 6 months ago, I made Damien promise me something. No special treatment, no promotions I didn't earn, no telling the company that I was his husband. I wanted to know exactly how far I could climb before anyone discovered whose ring I wore around my neck. Damien hated the arrangement. He agreed anyway, mostly. The conference room doors opened. 30 executives were already seated around the long glass table. Conversation stopped the second Damien entered. I walked behind him and began placing documents in front of each board member. One of the senior directors barely looked at me. Coffee, I stopped. Pardon? He pointed toward his empty cup. Black. I looked at him, then at the coffee station 6 feet behind his chair, then back at him. Your legs appear functional. Silence. Someone coughed. The director stared at me. What did you say? I smiled politely. I said the coffee station is behind you, Mr. Hargrove. Damien sat at the head of the table. I could feel his stare without looking at him. The director's face reddened. You're an assistant. Correct? Then assist. I tilted my head. My responsibilities involve executive scheduling, corporate logistics, and strategic documentation. I placed the final report on the table. They do not currently include carrying beverages 6 feet. Several people suddenly became extremely interested in their paperwork. Hargrove looked toward Damien. Are you going to allow your assistant to speak to an executive that way? There it was, the trap. Everyone expected Damien to discipline me. Damien slowly looked from Hargrove to me. Our eyes met, and I knew exactly what he was thinking. Because we'd had this argument at breakfast, you're going to insult someone eventually, only if they deserve it. That's what worries me. Damien leaned back in his chair. Mr. Seo. Yes, sir? A tiny pause. Is the coffee station operational? I almost smiled. Perfectly. Damien nodded, then looked at Hargrove. Problem solved. Someone at the far end of the table abruptly covered a cough. Hargrove looked furious. I returned to the chair beside Damien's. As the presentation began, my phone vibrated once beneath the table. I glanced down. Your legs appear functional? I typed without looking at him. They do. Another vibration. Remind me why I'm not allowed to kiss you at work. I stared straight ahead. Because you have the self-control of a teenager. 3 dots, says the man who climbed into my lap during breakfast. My fingers stopped. Slowly, very slowly. I turned my head. Damien was studying the presentation screen with the expression of a man reviewing quarterly revenue, completely innocent. I narrowed my eyes. His phone buzzed. We are in a board meeting. His reply arrived immediately. You started it. I had not. Unfortunately, explaining that would require continuing the conversation. So I put my phone face down. For the next 20 minutes, everything went normally until the revenue forecast appeared on screen. And I noticed something was wrong, very wrong. The numbers didn't match the report I'd prepared. I sat straighter. Damien noticed immediately. His eyes moved toward me. I flipped through the pages. Projected operating costs, regional revenue, acquisition expenses. 1 decimal point had been changed in the final spreadsheet, small enough that most people wouldn't notice, large enough to distort the company's projected valuation by almost $40 million. I looked toward the screen, then toward Vanessa. She was standing near the wall with the other executive staff, watching me and smiling. Ah, there it was. The coffee hadn't been the real attack. It had been a distraction. Someone had altered the financial model. And judging by Vanessa's expression, she expected Damien to believe I had done it. I slowly closed the report. Interesting. Very interesting. Because Vanessa had made one enormous mistake. She thought I was just Damien Ashford's assistant. She had absolutely no idea who she decided to play with. I looked back at the screen, then at the report in my hand, then at the spreadsheet being projected across the wall. Someone had changed the model after I had submitted it. Not sloppily either. Whoever did it understood enough about corporate finance to know exactly which numbers could be manipulated without immediately triggering an error. That almost impressed me. Almost. Mr. Seo. Damien's voice cut through the room, calm, controlled, dangerously neutral. I looked at him. Yes, sir? His eyes moved toward the screen. Is there a problem? Every person at the table turned toward me. Vanessa's smile widened. There it was, the moment she'd been waiting for. I could have denied everything. I could have pretended not to notice. I could have let the meeting continue and investigated quietly later. Instead, I stood. Yes. A few people shifted. Damien's expression didn't change. What problem? I walked toward the screen. The operating cost projection on slide 18 is incorrect. Hargrove frowned. Incorrect? By 38.6 million. The room changed. That number was big enough to make people stop breathing. One board member immediately looked down at his printed report. Another leaned forward. Hargrove's face hardened. That spreadsheet came from your office. It did. So you're saying you submitted inaccurate numbers? No. He blinked. I turned toward the screen. I'm saying someone altered the file after I submitted it. Silence. Vanessa folded her arms. That's a serious accusation. I looked at her. I haven't accused anyone. Yet. Correct. Her smile disappeared. Damien leaned back in his chair. Continue. I walked toward the laptop connected to the display. The junior analyst controlling the slides hesitated. I held out my hand. May I? He looked toward Damien. Damien nodded once. The laptop was immediately surrendered. I opened the financial model, then the version history. Hargrove scoffed. Version history doesn't prove anything. Anyone with access could have edited it. Exactly. I clicked again. A list appeared. Timestamps, user ID's internal server access, and one revision made at 8:42 that morning. I heard someone inhale sharply. Vanessa stopped moving. I enlarged the log. 8:42 a.m. I read the entry calmly. Operating cost assumptions changed, acquisition liabilities adjusted, revision saved under an administrative access token. Hargrove frowned. So? So my credentials don't have administrative access. I looked toward him. Yours do. His face changed, very slightly. Interesting. He recovered quickly. Are you accusing me? Still no, I smiled. But you're becoming very eager to volunteer. Someone at the table looked down to hide a reaction. Damien's fingers tapped once against the tabletop. He was enjoying this. I knew that tap. He did it when he was trying not to smile. Hargrove leaned forward. Watch your tone. My tone isn't affecting the numbers. I clicked into the server log. The administrative token originated from workstation E17. The IT director's head came up. E17 is outside the strategy department. Yes. I looked toward the wall, directly at Vanessa. It's the workstation assigned to executive administration. The room went completely silent. Vanessa laughed, a little too quickly. That proves nothing. People use shared terminals all the time. You're right, I nodded, which is why I requested security access logs. Now she really froze. Hargrove turned toward me. You requested what? Security access logs. When? 8:58. Vanessa stared. I could practically see her calculating backwards. 8:58. Before the coffee, before the meeting, before she thought I suspected anything. I smiled. I noticed the file metadata changed when I opened the backup copy this morning. That part was true. The altered file had been created before Vanessa spilled the coffee, which meant the coffee had not been intended to destroy the only evidence. It had been intended to make me panic, to make me rush, to make me walk into Damien's meeting without checking my work. That was the problem with people like Vanessa. They assumed embarrassment made everyone stupid. Mine usually made me observant. Damien looked toward the head of security. Do we have the logs? The man nodded. They're being pulled now. Vanessa spoke immediately. This is ridiculous. Nobody answered her. Her voice sharpened. You're seriously stopping an executive strategy meeting because an assistant can't take responsibility for his own mistake. I closed the laptop, then looked at her. No, she narrowed her eyes. We're stopping it because someone manipulated financial data attached to a board presentation. I tilted my head. That tends to interest boards. One of the directors gave a quiet hum of agreement. Vanessa's face flushed. Then she turned to Damien. "Mr. Ashford, surely you can see what's happening." Damien looked at her. "What exactly is happening?" "He's deflecting." "From what?" "His incompetence." I heard a chair move. Not mine, Damien's. He didn't stand, but something in his posture changed. I knew that posture too. That one was dangerous. I subtly moved my hand beside my leg where only he could see it. 2 fingers down. "Stay." His eyes flicked toward my hand, then back to Vanessa. He said nothing. "Good husband." Barely. The head of security's phone vibrated. He looked down, then up. "We have the access record." Everyone turned. He walked toward the screen and connected his tablet. A hallway camera appeared. Timestamp, 8:39 a.m., the executive administration floor. Vanessa, walking toward workstation E17. She was alone. The footage skipped forward. 8:41. Vanessa sat down. 8:42. File accessed. 8:43. She stood and walked away. No one spoke. I looked toward her. Vanessa had gone completely pale. Hargrove stood suddenly. "This doesn't mean she altered anything." The security director looked at him. "Her badge was the only one used to enter that section during the time of the revision. Someone could have used her badge." Vanessa grabbed onto that immediately. "Exactly." I nodded. "Possible." She looked at me almost relieved. Then I continued. "Which is why we'll check the keyboard authentication." The relief vanished. The IT director looked intrigued. "Biometric keystroke?" "Yes." Now several people looked at me differently. I continued. "Executive terminals track typing cadence for security verification. Not perfectly, but enough to narrow probability." The IT director gave a slow nod. "He's right." Hargrove looked irritated. "Since when does an executive assistant know internal cybersecurity protocols?" I turned toward him. "Since reading the employee security manual." "A beat. You should try it." Someone coughed again. Definitely a laugh this time. Damien looked down. His shoulders moved once. That bastard. He was laughing. Hargrove saw it too. His face tightened. "You seem very comfortable embarrassing senior employees." "No." I looked directly at him. "I seem very comfortable correcting people who underestimate me." That landed harder. The room became quiet again. Vanessa's expression changed. The panic was disappearing. Something colder replaced it. "Anger. Good. Angry people make mistakes." She stepped forward. "You know what everyone says about you." I raised an eyebrow. "No, but I'm sure you're about to save me the trouble of asking." "They say you're sleeping your way into favor." The room froze. Damien did too. For the first time that morning, I felt genuinely alarmed. Not because of the insult, because I knew my husband. And Vanessa had just unknowingly stepped onto a landmine. Her voice continued. 6 months here and suddenly you're in every executive meeting. You travel with the CEO. He ignores every complaint about you. You get access people spend years earning." She laughed bitterly. "Maybe we should all stop pretending you're talented." I looked at Damien. His expression had gone blank. Completely blank. That was worse than anger. I spoke before he could. "Finished?" Vanessa blinked. "What? Are you finished?" She stared at me. I stepped closer. "Because if you're trying to humiliate me, you'll need something better." Her mouth opened. I didn't let her speak. "Yes, I travel with the CEO." One step. "Because I'm his executive assistant." Another. "Yes, I attend meetings." Another. "Because I prepare the materials." Another. "And yes, he ignores complaints about me." I smiled. "Probably because most of them sound exactly like this." Her face tightened. "You arrogant." And as for sleeping my way into favor, I paused. Damien's eyes locked onto mine. Dangerous territory. Very dangerous territory. I smiled sweetly. I'm afraid the person I sleep with is considerably harder to impress than you are. Damien choked. Actually choked. The entire room turned toward him. He picked up his water. I looked away before I laughed. Vanessa stared between us, confused, suspicious for half a second, then dismissed it. Good. Not yet. The security director cleared his throat. We'll complete the authentication analysis. Damien finally spoke. Do that. His voice had dropped several degrees, then he looked toward Vanessa. Until then, Ms. Cole, your system access is suspended. Her eyes widened. Mr. Ashford, your badge will remain active for supervised access only. This is insane. No. His eyes hardened. Manipulating board-level financial data would be insane. She went quiet. Then Damien looked toward me. Mr. Seo. Yes? Can you correct the model? Already did. That got everyone's attention. Hargrove stared. When? I walked back toward my seat. While everyone was arguing, I connected my tablet. The corrected model appeared. Slide 18, new numbers. Slide 19, updated liabilities. Slide 20, adjusted valuation. I changed screens. The corrected acquisition scenario adds 4.2% to projected operating cost in Q1 but lowers integration risk by 11%. No one interrupted. I kept going. Because this was my part. Not the marriage, not the bullying, not Damien, mine. The original model assumed simultaneous restructuring across 3 markets. That's cheaper short-term but creates regulatory exposure in South Korea and Germany. I changed slides again. So I separated the integration timeline. The CFO leaned forward. You built an alternative model? 3. His eyebrows rose. I showed them. Conservative, balanced, aggressive. The board members began asking questions, real questions, not about my job title, not about being an Omega, about numbers, strategy, risk. And I answered everyone. 10 minutes later, the CFO stopped looking at Damien when he spoke. He started looking at me. 20 minutes later, the chairman asked for my projection document. 30 minutes later, Hargrove had stopped talking entirely. And when I finally sat down, Damien didn't say anything. He couldn't. Not without exposing himself. But beneath the table, his hand brushed mine. Once, quick, hidden, proud. I didn't look at him. I didn't need to. My phone buzzed. I checked it. Damien. That was incredibly attractive. I stared at the screen, then typed. Kai, please attempt professionalism for 10 consecutive minutes. His reply came almost instantly. Damien, I married you. Clearly, I make impulsive decisions. I bit back a smile. Kai, you proposed 3 times. Damien, persistent, impulsive decisions. I locked my phone. Impossible, man. The meeting finally ended at 11:06. Executives began filing out. Several looked at me differently now, not warmly, but differently. Respect was usually quieter than mockery. That was fine. I'd take quiet. The CFO stopped beside me. Mr. Seo, I looked up. Yes? Send me the alternative integration models. I will. He hesitated. Good work. Then he left. That was the first compliment he'd given me in 6 months. I packed my tablet. Damien remained at the head of the table. Everyone else slowly disappeared, until only the 2 of us remained. I didn't look at him. Don't. I haven't said anything. You have a face. I always have a face. A particular face. I closed my laptop. He stood, then walked around the table. Slowly, dangerously. Lock the door. I looked at him. Damien. Lock. No. He reached behind me, clicked the lock himself. I stared. That defeats the purpose of me saying no. Occupational hazard. You're impossible. And you're brilliant. His tone changed. Softer. I looked away. That was worse. I could deal with terrifying CEO Damien. Husband Damien was significantly more dangerous. He stepped closer. You knew before the meeting. About the file? Yes. I suspected. And you didn't tell me. You would have canceled the meeting and called security. Correct. I wanted evidence first. You had evidence. I wanted enough that nobody could say you protected me. That stopped him. His expression softened. I knew he understood. Damien always understood, even when he hated it. Especially then. He lifted one hand, slowly. His fingers touched the chain around my neck. The ring hidden beneath my shirt shifted. You shouldn't have to prove yourself every day. I don't. His eyes met mine. I proved them wrong. A small smile appeared. There he is. Who? The man I married. I rolled my eyes. You married me because I insulted you at a charity dinner. You told me my speech was boring. It was. You said I sounded like a quarterly earnings report. You did. I was giving a quarterly earnings report. At a charity gala. He looked offended. You've never respected me. I respect you. Name one example. I pretended to think. His eyes narrowed. I laughed. Then he grabbed my waist. Damien. What? Office. Locked. Glass walls. He paused. Looked around. Right. Very glass. I smiled. Brilliant CEO. Don't start. He released me reluctantly, then noticed something. His fingers brushed my sleeve. Your cuff. I looked down. Coffee stain. Small, brown, barely visible. His expression darkened again. I sighed. We handled Vanessa. Security handled Vanessa. Same thing. No. His eyes hardened. She targeted you before today. I said nothing. That was answer enough. His jaw tightened. Kai. It's fine. How long? I adjusted my cuff. Damien. How long? I looked at him. A while? His face went cold. Define a while. Nothing I couldn't handle. That wasn't my question. I exhaled. 4 months. The silence afterward felt heavier than the board meeting. 4. Yes. Months. Correct. And you said nothing. I handled it. He laughed once. No humor. Coffee on your work, sabotage, rumors about you sleeping your way into your position. He stepped back. And you've been handling it. Yes. Why? I looked at him. Because the second they know I'm your husband, every achievement becomes yours. His anger stopped. I continued. They won't say Kai caught the altered file. They'll say Damien protected his husband. They won't say Kai built the integration model. They'll say Damien gave his husband access. They won't say I earned this job. I touched the ring beneath my shirt. They'll say I married it. Damien went quiet. That was the part he hated, because he knew I was right. Eventually, he said, I still want to destroy them. I smiled. I know. Professionally. Of course. Legally. Good clarification. He looked at me. You're enjoying this. A little. Then his phone rang. His expression changed. Work again. He answered. Ashford. Pause. His face sharpened. When? Another pause. I watched him. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Send it to me. He hung up. What happened? He looked at me. The file alteration wasn't internal sabotage. I frowned. What do you mean? Security traced a second access point. My stomach tightened. Where? Damien's eyes turned cold. Outside the company. I stared. Someone used Vanessa's credentials? Apparently. Then why was she at the terminal? We don't know. My mind started moving. Too fast. Access logs, timing, administrative token, coffee, board file, the altered projection. What was changed? You saw it. No. I shook my head. What was the purpose of the change? Damien frowned. Lowering the valuation. Exactly. I grabbed my tablet again, opened the model. recalculated. If the altered version had reached the board unchallenged, it wouldn't just embarrass me, it would affect the acquisition vote, potentially delay the deal, potentially lower Ashford Global's offer, which would benefit. I stopped. Damien saw it. What? I looked up. This wasn't about me. His expression changed. I turned the screen toward him. They weren't trying to make me look incompetent. I pointed to the acquisition line. They were trying to change the board's decision. Damien stared at the numbers, then at me, and just like that, the office bullying stopped being office bullying, the coffee, the rumors, the sabotage, Vanessa. All of it had been hiding something much bigger. Someone wasn't trying to get me fired. Someone was trying to use me to get to Damien. And for the first time that morning, I stopped smiling.